The first time I went to see my current doctor and I described to her my bleed or my period monthly bleed cycle symptoms, her first reaction was, "That's not normal." The first time I went to see my current therapist and we had a discussion about the impacts of my monthly period and how it mentally, emotionally, and physically affects me and changes my disposition and how I know myself, her response was, "That's not normal." I can't tell you the number of doctors I've had in my life. Many. I'm 40. I've had many doctors in my life. I can't tell you the number of therapists that I've had in my life. I think it's about 7 at this point, or maybe a little less. Either way, it took that many doctors and that many support systems to have somebody validate that my existence and my experience of my existence with my menstrual cycle was not normal. I share this with you because for that entire time that I was seeing doctor after doctor, none of them seemed to really touch or impact the degree of severity with which I have a bleed each month. If you're like me and you keep trying thing after thing, doctor after doctor, therapist after therapist, and you keep receiving the same prescription as if it's not real or it's not as intense as it is for you, please don't give up on yourself if you feel that your sensation of your experience is far more amplified than the results or the feedback that you're getting. This is not to invalidate any other doctors or practitioners that I've seen, and it is not to show favoritism to my current doctor and my current therapist, although I do because I feel the most heard in their energy and by them in their treatment with me. But it is to encourage you not to consider your first try the last try, not to just accept what you're receiving as the only available option or response. In particular, I caution this, especially when you feel as if it is worse than how you're being treated and you feel like it deserves another look or a different prescription or a different type of attention than you are getting for your experience. That said, I do want to give you some insight into what it feels like at this juncture for me in my monthly cycle. So I'm on the outskirts of my luteal phase, meaning that it's coming to an end and my bleed or my period or my menstrual cycle is about to begin. I use a monthly flow tracker app to do that, and I can tell you because I also have PCOS and endometriosis, it's never right. And I don't blame the app. It is a symptom of having PCOS and endometriosis, is that you just never know when your cycle is going to begin or end. And that is the nature of how things have gone for me since I've had my bleed. In addition, and describing what my symptoms are like at this stage in my cycle, it is important to note that I do continue to use the Flow app tracker because it does give me a window of when I can anticipate having my bleed. But I'll give you a for instance. I went to Vegas with my husband on vacation last month. I was anticipating my bleed to begin when I came back. It started when I went. So I was anticipating to get it, for instance, on a Friday or a Saturday. Instead, I got it on a Sunday. So that's an idea of what it is like to have PCOS or endometriosis and the variability of when you can or cannot expect your cycle to begin or end. That said, in addition, I also have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is known as PMDD. A byproduct of having PMDD can be that you start to experience physiological, hormonal, psychological, mental, physical shifts and changes in your demeanor and how you know yourself as early as 5 days before the beginning of your menstrual cycle. For me, this is absolutely true. And it sometimes my cycle sometimes begins to show signs of its forthcoming even earlier than that. So for instance, my breasts started to swell and feel like my nipples could cut glass as early as last Wednesday. They still feel that way. And my cycle was predicted to begin on Friday. However, as early as Monday, I started to notice my sleeping patterns change. I am normally a good sleeper through the night. Even if I have to get up and go to the bathroom through the night, I will still come back to the bed and just conk right out. I also noticed that as my symptoms start to progress and my bleed gets closer with my PMDD, I also experience, in addition to insomnia, which is a possible symptom of PMDD, I also start to noticing night sweats. Night sweats can be attributed to PCOS as well. I do take measures to combat that, which we can talk about. If you have any questions, let me know, or in a different video. So also, as of today, I have begun noticing cramping. cramping in my abdomen, around my ovaries. It feels like my womb and my ovaries are going like a heartbeat, like they're vibrating. And so because of that, I have also started to begin to feel pain in and around my body. Pain as far as the ovaries going like this, shoots radiating pain into my hip bones, down the front of my thighs, around my knees, cascading down my shins, into my feet, up through my ankles and my heels, into my calf muscle, in the back of the ligaments and the tendons of my kneecap, up into the back of my thigh, and into my gluteus, all the way up my spine. This pain will continue to radiate until my cramping ends, which means when bleed becomes less vigorous and agitated for me. My dog is scratching behind me, so you can hear it. There she is. There's the calibobes. So I wanted to share this with you because I think that sometimes when it comes to our cycles as people that bleed, we are expected that we're only supposed to be in potential discomfort during the window with which we bleed. However, in addition to experiencing the pain prior to, not only in my breasts, but also radiating in through my body from my ovaries, I've also begun to experience extreme lethargy. So with the insomnia, there is also a feeling of exhaustion. So while you're not sleeping, with that hormonal and chemical change within your body, you also start to feel exhausted. And with that exhaustion, I also lose my capacity for creativity. My zest to show up anywhere, to have a conversation with literally anyone is like the most annoying thing for me when I have my period. It's like, Shannon is mute, no talking. I wanted to caution that because with the impacts of having premenstrual dysphoric disorder, there's a myriad of symptoms. I believe right now there's 11 plus symptoms to look for. You don't have to have all of them in order to be diagnosed with PMDD. I happen to have most, if not all, of the symptoms, which is why I think my therapist and my doctor were like, this is not normal. And thank goodness for them. Love these two beautiful, brilliant ladies. I wanted to share that because I did not have any education about PMDD. I had no idea it existed. You don't always know everything. And because you don't know everything, you don't even know what to ask. You don't even know what like is an egregious symptom when it's like, I just deal with that all the time. That's my monthly cycle. That's, status quo, business as usual. And so I wanted to give this insight into what PMDD can feel like. In addition to not only having that insomnia, that brain fog, that creative blocking, you can have symptoms that will run outside of your bleed, and they can last again for up to 3 to 5 days beyond the bleed cycle when you're no longer bleeding anymore. So that lethargy can continue. The point is, do trust yourself. Do not accept an answer if it doesn't feel right to you. Do give yourself the opportunity to seek additional resources or additional feedback. And when it comes to honoring yourself above all things, do whatever you need to do to take care of you and be really honest with yourself about what you're facing and what you're dealing with so that you can support yourself in a way that's intentional. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to share energy and space with you. If any piece or part of this video and the message resonates with you, please feel free to share it or give me any insights or feedback that you have. I always enjoy hearing from you. Otherwise, please, 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 the number one thing for you to do in your life always, be good to yourself.